Hi everyone, my name is Aparna Bhatia, and this week's tech tip is about how to modify truss nodes. So here we've already created the envelopes for our trusses, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the Create menu, and once that opens up, here one thing we need to note is our units. So we need to make sure that we have chosen the correct units. So if you're using the FIS system or the millimeters, so FIS basically stands for feet, inches, and then 16ths of an inch. Okay, so if you are choosing millimeters, then you just have to put a single value, whereas if you're using the feet, inches, and 16ths of an inch, you actually have to put the value for each one of those. So you can choose your settings as you need. In our case, I'm just going to choose our trust member really quickly, send it to the top, ensure it's applied to all. I can also go to webbing and heels and add half bracing or create a third of a bracing and add those as additional members. When you create half bracings and thirds of bracing, you will actually see that there's additional nodes inside the family. Um, and then, yeah, actually here. So for the webbing rules, I'm going to actually make them 2 feet apart or 3 feet apart for the bottom and the top. And then we are going to basically go into our truss designer. So I have web on launch, so it will create a web the minute the truss designer opens up. And I've also replicated identical, so any of the similar profiles will get the settings that we're going to set up now. Okay, give that a second. So over here, we have our truss designer opened up. So we're basically going to discuss all of this here, okay? So we can select any node. So I'm going to select this node number 12. So you'll notice that the node value for all three of these has changed to 12 because that's the node we're referring to. Now I can choose to create an element off of member point. So from this point, I can create another item or another node from that point onward. So I can specify the coordinates or these values can be an offset value. Okay, so if I wanted it to be an offset value of 1 foot, okay, so I'll put in the y direction, I wanted to offset by 1 foot, but in the x direction, I wanted to I want to offset it by 6 inches. Okay, I can go ahead and say offset by, and you'll notice it creates another member here, a foot above and a foot to the right. Okay, now if I wanted it to create a node, right? If I wanted it to create a node that was at a specific coordinate, so if I know that I want a node, like let's say this one, I wanted it to be 5 feet instead of 4 feet over here. And I still want the y value to be the same, so I wanted to move it to the side here, maybe to create an attic. I can just specify coordinates. Oops, I will undo. I'll click that, move that to 5 feet. And you'll see that the node gets created at that coordinate. Okay. Then we also have an option to move the node. So if I'll take this node 19 here, all right, there you go. I can also choose to move this node either to a specific coordinate or by a specific coordinate. So these values can be either set as 2 coordinate values or by coordinate values. So what that means is over here, if I wanted to move this to 5 feet and 12 feet and keep that x value the same, but I just wanted this node to move up, I can basically say 2 coordinates and it will move the node to that coordinate. Any of the webs assigned or attached to it will basically move with it. Okay. I can also move it by coordinates. So if I wanted it to move only by 1 foot, and over here I wanted to move it by 1 foot, I can just move it by coordinates and it will move 1 foot over and 1 foot up. Okay. If I want to only move it in one direction, I could just put it as 0. Okay. Then we also have an option for on member point. So for on member point, I can select the node I want to move, and I can also select my L1, L2. So what that means is I can choose a line that falls between specific nodes. So this line goes from 5 to 6, and we're planning on modifying node number 21. Okay, so what I can do is on that member point, I can specify a distance. So if I wanted something to get created at 1 foot offset, I can choose horizontal and it will get created on the same line because we chose our L1 and L2 as 5 and 6. I can also do the same thing here. So the horizontal and vertical basically matter in terms of these lines. So over here, if I wanted it to move between 16 and 17. So I want to create a duplicate of 16, and I wanted to move between 16 and 17. I can put the value. If I click on horizontal, it'll give me an error because it's dividing by 0. So instead, I'll do vertical, and you'll notice that it's going along the vertical line. If I click along this line for node 16, I can basically say horizontal, and it will move it 1 foot over for node 16. Okay. I can also specify a negative value here. So put a negative in, and I can specify horizontal, and it will move along that line. So L1 and L2 is what identifies which line it's moving along. That's it for this week's tech tip. Have a great day.